This is the story of Pan and Syrinx. Syrinx was a shy, virginal nymph of an oak tree, the kind of nymph called a hamadryad. She was a faithful worshipper of Artemis. She had vowed to stay a virgin. Syrinx was desired by all the satyrs and other wood dwellers, but she scorned and she rejected all of them. One day, as she was returning from the hunt, Pan saw her. Pan was the son of Hermes and a nymph. He was the god of flocks and forests, meadows and shepherds. He's usually depicted as a man with the horns and legs and feet of a goat, with a thick beard, a snub nose, and pointed ears. Pan is the Greek god of nature. First and foremost, however, Pan's role as a deity goes far beyond that. He's also the god of bees and beekeepers, a god of music, and sometimes a minor god of the sea. He's also directly connected to masturbation, taught to him by his father Hermes. Pan was a god of fertility, unbridled male sexuality and carnal desire. He chased nymphs. He danced and skipped through the countryside and forests playing delightful tunes. All the nymphs knew it was very lucky to be addressed by Pan. But Pan was not particularly well liked by the other Greek gods. He was a solitary god who dwelled in caves and on mountains. As a spirit of nature, Pan could inspire terror, especially in solitary wanderers in the wilderness at night. This is the origin of our word panic. Pan decided he would have Syrinx for a bride. He began to pursue her as she was returning from the hunt. Since she was dedicated to Artemis and celibacy, she ran away. She would not stop to hear his compliments, and Pan pursued her into the woods. Upon reaching the edge of a stream, she implored her father, the river god Ladon, to rescue her. And at the very instant of Pan's embrace, Ladon transformed her into marsh reeds. And Pan was left holding not a beautiful maiden, but a bunch of reeds. Finding himself alone, with a cluster of reeds in his arms, the god was charmed by the sound of the air whistling through them. Pan said to the reeds, "Syrinx, you will be mine after all." He cut the reeds and joined them with beeswax to make a musical instrument. It became the shepherd's pipe, the Pan's pipe, which he called the Syrinx. Now, when evening shadows lengthen and the night wind softly steals through the trees, touching with restless fingers the still waters of small lakes, there can be heard a long, long whisper like a sigh. There is no softer, sadder note to be heard in all Pan's great orchestra. The whisper comes from the reeds, who gently sway their heads while the wind passes over them as they grow by lonely lakes and streams. The lovely tones of the Pan pipes, the Syrinx, would always remind Pan of his lost love. Now that you know the story of Pan and Syrinx, I would like to recite for you a poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. What was he doing, the great god Pan, down in the reeds by the river, spreading ruin and scattering ban, splashing and paddling with hoofs of a goat, and breaking the golden lilies afloat with the dragonfly on the river? He tore out a reed, the great god Pan, from the deep, cool bed of the river. The limpid water turbulently ran, and the broken lilies a dying lay, and the dragonfly had fled away. Ere he brought it out of the river, High on the shore sat the great god Pan, while turbidly flowed the river, and hacked and hewed as a great god can with his hard, bleak steel at the patient reed, till there was not a sign of the leaf indeed, to prove it fresh from the river. He cut it short, did the great god Pan, oh how tall it had stood in the river, then drew the pith, like the heart of a man, steadily from the outside ring, and notched the poor, dry, empty thing in holes as he sat by the river. This is the way, laughed the great god Pan, laughed while he sat by the river, the only way since gods began to make sweet music. They could succeed. Then dropping his mouth to a hole in the reed, he blew in power by the river. Sweet, 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 O Pan, piercing sweet by the river, blinding sweet, O great god Pan. The sun on the hill forgot to die, and the lilies revived, and the dragonfly came back to dream on the river. Yet half a beast is the great god Pan, to laugh as he sits by the river, making a poet out of a man. The true gods sigh for the cost and pain, for the reed which grows nevermore again, as a reed with the reeds in the river.